For over 2 decades, I proudly wore the uniform of a Disney security officer, ensuring the safety and happiness of millions at the so-called happiest place on Earth. But nothing in those 23 years prepared me for what I uncovered last week. It started with a simple call about a forgotten room. Untouched luggage, toys still on the bed, snacks unopened. A family of 4 checked in and never checked out. No check-ins at other parks, no phone calls, just silence. As I pulled on the threads, their Magic Band data, security footage, and finally the photos from their Memory Maker account, I realized this wasn't just a case of lost guests. What I found shook me to my core. Hundreds of photos from a single ride, the family changing, fading, dolls shifting, and a truth so strange, so impossible, I can barely say out loud. But I have to, before it disappears like they did. I've been with Disney for 23 years now. Started in my early 20s, fresh out a short military stint, and looking for something stable. I found more than a paycheck. I found a weird sense of purpose. Being security at the parks wasn't glamorous, but it felt important. Every day was the same mix of shoplifters, guests overheating and getting a little too drunk, kids getting separated from their parents and needing help finding their way back. Occasionally we'd have a fight break out, usually over something ridiculous like cutting in line, but nothing ever truly dark. The parks were busy, sure, but they ran like a machine. A shiny, colorful, well-oiled machine that never seemed to stop. But as the years went on, the endless walking in the heat wore me down. My knees started giving me hell, and I asked for a transfer to a security position at one of the resorts. Indoor work, better air conditioning, and less chaos. I got what I asked for, but in hindsight, I'd take back every second of it if it meant I never saw what I saw last week. At the resorts, most of the issues we dealt with were domestic disputes. The stress of expensive vacations, tight schedules, and exhausted kids can push people to their limits. I'd get called in for yelling matches between parents that shared a wall with another family trying to sleep. Sometimes I had to gently suggest they go take a nap, cool off at the pool, or just take separate activities for a bit. That usually did the trick. It was boring work most days, predictable. But a few mornings ago, that changed. Housekeeping reported a room that hadn't been turned over properly. A family of 4 had checked in 5 days prior, but now it was well past their checkout time, and all their stuff was still there undisturbed. Clothes hung neatly in the closet, snacks in the minibar untouched, toys scattered just as if the kids had gone to pool and would be back any minute. But no one returned. When I got to the room, it was eerie, not messy or damaged, just frozen, like the family had stepped out for lunch and somehow never came back. The manager had already tried calling the numbers on file. Voicemail. I double-checked everything. Reservation info, arrival date, room key records. They had paid for parking, and the vehicle was still sitting in the resort lot. Not driven, not moved. That ruled out them ditching the trip early or getting in an accident off property. Still, we were stuck. So I authorized housekeeping to carefully pack up the items and bring them to Lost and Found while I dug deeper. At the time, I thought I was just being thorough, that I'd maybe uncover a mix-up or find that the family had checked into another room by mistake. But as it turns out, that quiet room with the toys still on the floor was just the beginning. The first, quiet step into something I can't unsee and might never understand. At first, I still thought there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe they'd taken a rideshare somewhere, got delayed, or had a medical emergency. I've seen people disappear for a day or two before. It happens. But something about the room bothered me more than I wanted to admit. It wasn't just still, it felt abandoned, like the air in there had been waiting too long. So I started combing through the reservation details. The family had checked in 5 days before housekeeping noticed the room hadn't been turned over. A standard stay, dad, mom, 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. They had booked one of our mid-tier resort suites with a view of the pool, paid in full. They'd even added a few extras, character breakfast, memory maker, and a full dining plan. The kind of family that had probably been saving up for this trip for a long time. The first thing I checked was their car. They had paid for parking, and the reservation included the make, model, and license plate. I walked the guest lot and found it easily. It was parked exactly where it should have been, dusty now, untouched. That ruled out the idea that they'd simply driven away in the middle of the night. Next, I pulled up their dining plan usage. If you've never been to Disney, the dining plan is like prepaying for all your meals. Guests get a certain number of credits per day and can use them at participating restaurants across the parks and resorts. It's all tracked and tied to the guest magic band. This family had used exactly 3 credits. 1 the night they arrived, probably dinner at the resort. 2 the next day at Epcot. That was it. No more transactions after that second day. That's when I really started to worry. Most families blow through their dining credits quickly. A family of 4? They should have had dozens of entries by now, meals, snacks, drinks. But it was like they had just stopped. At this point, I started reviewing their Magic Band activity. If you're not familiar, Magic Bands are the little wristbands that guests wear for just about everything. Unlocking hotel rooms, entering parks, buying food, checking into rides. Every scan is time-stamped and geotagged. If someone so much as buys a show, we know when and where. Their band showed activity on the day they arrived, room access, dinner at the quick service downstairs. The following day, they entered Epcot around 9:45 a.m. and used 2 fast passes, 1 for Soarin', 1 for Living with the Land. Their final activity in Epcot was a dining scan around 1:15 p.m. That was it for that day. The next morning, they entered Magic Kingdom early, just after 8 a.m. They had breakfast reservations inside the park, used a fast pass for Peter Pan's flight, and another for the Haunted Mansion. Their last recorded scan was for It's a Small World at 11:03 a.m. And then nothing, not a single scan afterward. No meals, no room entry, no purchases, just silence. If you've ever seen a Magic Band report, it's usually packed. Most guests hit dozens of scans a day. The fact that this family's digital trail just cut off mid-morning in the middle of a busy park sent a chill through me I still can't shake. I thought maybe the bands got lost. Maybe they dropped them. But all 4 stopped at the exact same moment. No gaps, no lingering pings, as if the entire family vanished in sync. That was the moment I knew I had to get someone else involved. This wasn't a mix-up. It wasn't a case of a family cutting their vacation short or getting lost in the crowds. Something had happened in that park that morning, and the only clue I had left to follow was that ride. It's a Small World. I couldn't stop thinking about that last scan. It's a Small World, 11:03 a.m., Magic Kingdom. The place is a maze, sure, but it's not the kind where people just disappear. If a kid gets lost, we find them. If someone has a breakdown or an emergency, there are protocols, but this was different. For people just gone. And it all pointed to that one ride. The same ride we joke about behind the scenes. Not because it's dangerous, but because of that damn song. Looped over and over, chirpy and inescapable. Cast members hate getting assigned there too long. It wears on you. But no one ever feared it. Until now, I called in a favor. A buddy of mine, Rick, worked security over at Magic Kingdom. We came up through the ranks together. He's the kind of guy who'd take the heat for bending protocol if it meant doing the right thing. I told him what I had, and without hesitation, he started pulling footage. We agreed to meet up near the ride after his shift. I made my way over. The whole park fell off that day. Maybe it was just me, but the colors seemed too bright, the music too loud. Everything about the place felt fake in that moment, like a set, a performance. Rick met me near the back entrance, his face already telling me more than I wanted to hear. He looked pale, sweaty. He didn't say a word, just waved me inside and led me down to the operations room beneath the ride. It's where they keep the surveillance gear, maintenance monitors, emergency stop panels. Most guests don't even know it exists. He brought up the footage from that morning. 11:03 a.m. For Magic Band scan in. The family is all smiles as they board their boat. Row 3, if I remember right. The kids look excited. The mom's got her phone out, probably taking a video. Dad's waving to one of the attendants as they pull away from the dock. I waited, tense, watching the screen. Rick switched over to the exit cam. The ride's about 15 minutes long, give or take depending on traffic. He fast-forwarded to the 11:18 mark, when their boat should have reached the end. There they were, the boat, but not the family. 3 other guests were in rows 1 and 2, an older couple and a teenager. But row 3? Empty. We both stared at the screen in silence, waiting for someone to jump out and shout gotcha, or for the footage to glitch and reset. But nothing happened. The ride attendants helped the others off the boat. Row 3 passed by. No one even noticed. Rick rewound it. Checked from another angle. Still nothing. He checked the log. No emergency stops. No delays. No technical issues. The ride had run smooth that morning. Perfectly on schedule. Except for one boat that came back lighter than it left. Maybe they jumped off during the ride? I asked, though I didn't believe it. Rick shook his head. No alerts. The sensors would have picked it up. Pressure plates. Trip beams. Anything more than a hat hitting the water sets off alarms. Still, we had to check. We shut down the ride, which is unheard of during peak hours. But there was no choice, and walked the entire length of the track, flashlight in hand. Through every creepy singing room, through every animatronic smile. Nothing. No bodies. No signs of anyone ever having left the boat, except for 3 cell phones, 1 hat, and a child stuffed Pluto doll floating face down in the water. Rick looked at me, his voice low. There's nowhere to go in there. If they got off, they didn't get out. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My mind was already racing ahead. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and we weren't just looking at a missing persons case anymore. We were looking at a place that didn't want to let them go. After we shut down It's a Small World and came up with nothing, no signs, no clues, no way out, it should have ended there. We should have handed it off to law enforcement, let the suits upstairs handle it, and moved on. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop thinking about that boat, that empty row, that stuffed animal in the water. There was one more thing I hadn't checked, their Memory Maker. Now, if you've never used it, Memory Maker is Disney's photo package. When you buy it, any photo taken of you in the parks, by official photographers or on-ride cameras, automatically gets uploaded to your Disney account. The system is smart, too. It uses Magic Band data and facial recognition to tag photos accurately. It knows exactly where you are at any time, and it tracks everything. I wasn't even sure why I checked it. Part of me hoped for a clue. A happy photo to remind me this family was once real, once smiling, once whole. Something to ground this nightmare. I logged in using the reservation number and accessed their account. There were 732 photos. That alone stopped me cold. Most guests leave with maybe 50, 100 if they're really into the photo ops. But this was something else entirely. I scrolled to the beginning. The first dozen or so were what you'd expect. The family at Epcot, standing in front of the big golf ball. The kids hugging Mickey near the resort lobby. Mom and Dad in front of Cinderella's castle. Everyone smiling. Everyone glowing. But then they stopped moving. The next photo was from It's a Small World. Row 3, Mom, Dad, 2 kids, big excited grins. The ride takes 1 photo per pass-through, usually midway where the lighting's best. The next one, same boat, same people. But they weren't smiling anymore. Over the next 15 or 20 shots, you can see the dad yelling, mouth open, teeth bared, pointing at something out of frame. The kids were holding on to their mom. The mom's eyes were wide, scanning the room like she was looking for a way out. And then, photo after photo. Dozens. Then hundreds. They were still in that same boat. Still, unchanged surroundings. The same creepy dolls. The same fake water. The same pastel horrors smiling in the background. But the family changed. They deteriorated. Somewhere around image 100, Dad looked tired. His anger replaced by confusion. By 200, he looked hollow. By 300, the youngest kid had stopped crying, but only because she looked too exhausted to keep going. Around 450, the dad was no longer in the photos. He was just gone. In one frame, his seat was empty. In the next, he was slumped over in another row. Was he dead? Unconscious? I couldn't tell. After 600 photos, it was just the mom and the daughter. The boy was gone too, only visible in one frame, lying motionless on the floor of the boat, eyes shut. In every photo, the mom's hands clutch her daughter tighter, both of them pale, wide-eyed, unmoving. But then came the worst part. Around photo 700, I noticed something else in the boat. A doll. Not one of the ones staged along the walls. Not one on a platform. This one was in the boat, behind the mom and daughter. Small, painted face, grinning wide. It wasn't there in the previous photos. But there it was now, and it moved. In each picture, it shifted slightly, closer, leaning forward, tilting its head. And in the last photo I could bear to look at, the doll was sitting between them, still smiling. I closed the album. My hands were shaking, my stomach twisted in knots. But just before I exited the browser, I saw the file size increase. A new image was uploading. Another ride photo. They were still there, still trapped, still riding. And the ride wasn't done with them. I don't know how long I sat there, just staring at the screen. After going through all those images, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. My body was cold, my breath shaky. The walls around me felt like they were closing in. This place, this happy place, was a damn coffin with castle turrets. I kept checking the screen where the photo file was stored, watching the size tick up slowly, like the system was still uploading more images, more rides, more photos of that poor woman and her daughter, still on that boat, still stuck in that nightmare, still being watched. Then I saw the alert. Security Gate 4, law enforcement arrived. The police were here. I met them at the resort's back entrance. 3 officers. All business. They asked the usual questions. When did the family check in? Who last saw them? What I found. I gave them everything. Every detail. I even showed them the images from a Memory Maker account. Though I had to warn them ahead of time, one officer, the youngest, went pale when he saw them. He had a daughter around the same age as the girl in the photos, and he couldn't take it. He walked out of the room. The other 2 asked to see the ride. I gave them access. But even as I walked them through the same path, Rick, and I had already covered, I could see the change happening. That look, the same one I've seen on every manager's face over the years when something happens that could be bad for the brand. That subtle shift from concern to calculation. I knew where this was going. Disney doesn't do mystery. It doesn't do horror. What it does is control. Carefully packaged narratives. Everything scripted, polished, magical. It doesn't allow for the unexplained, which is why I knew the story wouldn't make it out. Not the truth. Anyway, maybe they'll say the family left early. Maybe they'll claim there was a clerical error in the reservation system. Maybe they'll come up with some excuse about a different family's photos getting uploaded to the wrong account. Who knows? What I do know is that those people, those 4 human beings, disappeared inside this place, and no one's going to tell the world what really happened. Because the brand can't bleed. And me? I can't stay. I've been wearing this name tag for 23 years. I've given everything to this company. Miss Holidays, pulled doubles in the heat, dealt with drunk dads and screaming kids and Karens at the front desk. I've done it all because I believed in something. In the magic, maybe, or maybe just in the idea that we were helping people make memories. But this isn't something I can bury. So I'm leaving. As soon as I hand over my report, I'm walking out that cast member gate for the last time. I don't know what I'll do next, but I do know I can't keep this to myself. That's why I'm writing this now. That's why I've told you everything. Before someone from corporate decides this whole thing needs to quietly disappear, just like that family did. You deserve to know. If you're planning a trip here soon, especially to Magic Kingdom, maybe skip It's a Small World. Maybe skip the whole park. Because something's wrong here. Something deep. Something ancient. Something that sings to you in the dark and doesn't let go. And if you ever hear that song playing when no one's around, run.